What's going on, family? It's Sheneisha of Living Corporate, and today we're going to have that conversation. We're going to have that conversation of what is it like to be a first-time generation American or immigrant in America right now working in corporate. What is it like to have a seat at the table? Not only have a seat at the table as a person of color, but to have a seat at the table carrying the torch for your family, for your generation, being the first to do it. What are those experiences like? And today we have Dr. Kennetth Joseph, who is a pharmacist, a strategic pharmacist working for one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in America right now. Kenneth is going to share his insight on what is it like to be the first, what has been his experience, what has he been exposed to, and his outlook on being the first generation American within his family to work at a corporate capacity. And if you guys haven't already, I don't know why you haven't, but go ahead and give us a 5 stars for the podcast, as well as follow us on Instagram. I hope you guys enjoy the conversation that is being had between Kenneth and myself, and just stay tuned. All right, Ken. So, how do you identify yourself? We're speaking on first generation American immigrant in corporate America. How does Dr. Kennetth Joseph identify himself?
Great question. First and foremost, I feel like being the famous first is what my family likes to call it. It's just a blessing and an honor. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have made it this far because they fueled me along the way. Now, in regards to how I identify myself, I am a Haitian American. My parents came here in the 80s from Haiti, and the rest is history.
All right. I hear you, little bars. 80s. All right. Okay, so as a first generation Haitian American, how do you identify yourself in corporate America? Do you still identify yourself as a Haitian American, or are you just Black American? How do you identify yourself in corporate?
Yeah, good color and clarity to the question, because
yes.
It's still the same. I make a good point at work, even in this corporate capacity, to make sure folks know that I am Haitian American.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows I'm from South Florida. There's palm trees on my desk. Everyone knows I'm Haitian first and then American. I speak Creole. At times when we play music at work, I play some compa. So I really try to embrace my culture and not let corporate dictate who I am as a person and where I came from.
I definitely think that's major. I know a lot of times we can have the whole identity crisis in corporate America, trying to conform to what they would like us to be or what they would assume that we should be in that capacity. It's almost as if you identify as anything else outside of just Black, African American, then it's almost as if you're challenging the culture. Or am I a little bit too far off to the left?
Well, I'll say yes and, right? So when you think about Blacks, that's a bucket of everyone with more pigmentation to their skin, right? Mm-hmm. Some folks even put the darker tone Indians or Mexicans under the bucket of Black just because it's a color, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why I call out Haitian American is because that's my culture. You know, Toussaint Louverture led the rebellion in the Caribbean that led to the rebellion in America by way of the Louisiana Purchase. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of rich history in Haitian culture, history. So I use that to anchor myself because it's that courage that I used, that my ancestors fought, that I continue to fight, try to pave the way for the legacy I'm trying to leave on this earth.
That's real. Do you feel challenged by this when you're at work? Do you feel challenged when you walk the halls or sit at your desk or sit in the conference room?
I do, honestly, to a degree. Mm-hmm. I'll say that, working in corporate America, especially in pharma, I have a terminal degree. I am a pharmacist by trade, but I'm the only pharmacist in my division. I'm the only Black male in my division, mm-hmm. and I'm the only Haitian. So there's a lot of layers that I feel like I have to make sure I'm cognizant of. But I also treat others within the layers of me. Because being of diverse background in a majority white capacity or majority Caucasian, for lack of better words, you must take it upon yourself to educate the masses.
Right.
I feel like ignorance is a state of unawareness, right? So we use any opportunity to educate folks about our culture, be it African American, be it Haitian American, Jamaican American, or even pure thereof. That's why I really make a point of it. So if you ask anybody from the VP all the way down to the janitors, they all know I'm Haitian American.
And then a first generation American. So go ahead, no, it's cool. What influence does this have on your day-to-day interactions with your colleagues? Being a first generation American, Haitian American, what influence do you think this has?
I think it gives the greatest sense of urgency. Like I said, my parents came to the States in the 80s. I'm the youngest five. My parents actually had two kids that were in Haiti before they left. The kids that were of age, they made the decision. My oldest sibling, my oldest brother, my oldest sister, they made the decision to stay in Haiti. So when my mom and my dad came to South Florida, once they got acclimated to the area and had my two older brothers, my older brother, my older sister, and myself, for a total of five, that's when it really hit me. Every time I think back to it, like I'm my mom's last hope. I'm my dad's last hope.
Wow.
And it's funny when you go from the last to the first. So that's why my family, they have the notion of the famous first. So now segue into being the first in my company as a first generation Haitian American, being the first black pharmacist on my team. It's a lot of newness. So it's I don't know, it boggles my mind, but it also fuels me. And I think that knowing that I'm the first, I have to continue to fight. So going back to that sense of courage, because, walking into work every day when you're the only one that looks like you, walking into work every day when no one truly understands or sometimes even appreciate your background, but you take pride in it because that's your identity, that's who you are. So once again, that's why I try to educate folks in any opportunity I have. Quick stop by the bathroom, walk into the bathroom, or quick drink of coffee, having lunch. I always try to insert a little bit about my background, about my heritage, to better edify folks so they understand who I am, not just as an employer or co-worker, but as a person.
That's deep. So you said before, and you mentioned, I think like twice, about having to fight. What exactly are you fighting in corporate America as a first generation American or immigrant? Like what are you fighting against?
Well, I guess I use the term fight because that's what life is, right? Life is a battlefield. And, I have a competitive spirit. And I think kind of what unlocks that competitive spirit when I use that type of word choice. So I'm very meticulous when it comes to word choice because words are the precursor to actions. But the fight itself is really just trying to understand how to navigate. I'm big on mentorship as well because I've been mentored throughout my entire life, throughout my matriculation in the College of Pharmacy and even thereafter. And I, gave back in the same sense. So I'm a mentor to, pharmacy students, business students, just folks across the nation, either directly by way of my alma mater, Florida A&M University, or folks just reaching out on LinkedIn. We hit it off and they continue to come to me for insight and guidance. But the fight comes when, the story changes, right? It's different phases in life. So growing up, it was easy to get that guidance because there was always somebody willing to help, right? Call it more of a community type ideal, right? It takes a village. So there's always somebody in the village that's willing to help. But that village you come from is people that look like you, come from the same backgrounds as you, have the same type of fight in themselves as you. If it's the older individual, they try to live vicariously through you, so they want to see you succeed.
Right.
In corporate America, it's almost like a lonely fight, because since there's so little folks that look like you, let alone any, depending upon, the division, the capacity, so on and so forth, you may not interact with anybody that looks like you or understands you to that degree on a day-to-day. So for me, it is a different sense of urgency and a fight, if you will, because it's a battle, right? And being the quote-unquote famous first in my family, I choose the fight. It's a noble fight, because I came from a long legacy of fighters, going all the way back to the Haitian heritage of Toussaint Louverture, who led that rebellion once again. I always make mention of that because it reminds me to rebel against the norm.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a day that you see a first-generation Haitian American go and get a terminal degree, leave South Florida, which is the comfort zone, for my heritage and my background, go to Chicago, where although Chicago was actually founded by a Haitian Frenchman, there's not much Haitians in Chicago. So it's a never-ending fight. But like I said, I use that term to kind of trigger myself to have that sense of courage and perseverance. You
mentioned about mentorship and being in corporate America and having a mentor. I'm going to do a shameless plug and talk about your Manhood on the Go Foundation, where you are mentoring others as well, which I know you mentioned pharmacy students, business students, and those who reached out to you on LinkedIn. How did you come about being a part of Manhood on the Go? I'm going to do that brief segue. So how did you get into doing Manhood on the Go? Was it inspired, again, by you being a first-generation American?
Yeah, and I would say because the actual founder is Iman Sandifer, a good friend of mine from South Florida as well. He is not Haitian. He is African-American. But it's, once again, that commonality of being from South Florida, being a first-generation. I'll save his story for another day. Maybe he can share it through this platform. But it's that commonality when you're in the village. Being that he came from where I came from, we had a lot of similar thoughts. We're like-minded individuals trying to obtain that common goal. That common goal was, breaking the barriers of the past, mm-hmm. and making sure that I'm maximizing on the opportunities of life. So I met Iman on the campus of Florida A&M University, and we just hit it off. One of our greatest passions was mentorship, and I've actually first met him while we were mentoring for a research program that was funded by Florida State University. They had a research project where they were trying to do a comparative analysis on at-risk youth, is what they call it. But mm-hmm. It was basically kids that grew up like him and I grew up. So when he started the foundation, and he just asked me to be a part of it, it didn't take much for me to just jump in full-heartedly, mm-hmm. and give it my all, because that's one of the places where I said we mesh well and we have that same goal. So now we just want to help folks that came from where we came from, and they're trying to head to bigger and better things like we are. That's powerful, to get out there and share what you've been given, and to make sure that you're encouraging others to do the same and to go after things and having that passion and that drive. I think that's dope. That's dope. That's super dope. Yeah, I mean, it's reach as we climb, and each one teach one, right? So
right.
One of the reasons came up with that name, Manhood on the Go. It's like, as a young black man in America, myself, young Haitian American, himself, a young African American, but once again, coupled under the notion of a black man, mm-hmm. We're always grinding, right?
Right.
We have that grind, always on the go. It starts off in the village, if you will, and then once you go into whatever path you take, but for us, it was in college, right? So remember, always going to class, and then going to the extracurricular organizations, being in fraternity, Omega Psi Phi, myself being a part of the wrestling team, being a part of all these different organizations on campus, off campus, in the community, always on the go. But one of the things that we do is we put manhood first, because that's one of the biggest things for us, because we want to make sure that we keep that spirit up, because there are other men looking at us. there's qualities in him and I that other young men are looking for mentorship on. So it's like we always make sure that we're cognizant of that. You never know who's looking at you. You never know who's aspiring to be like you. And, folks may not always reach out for help, but you'll be surprised how much of influence you can have both indirectly. So, when folks reach out, it's a humbling experience for myself and for them because, that's how that connection is made. But for even those individuals who are just looking from afar, that's that indirect influence that we're still keen on.
So, speaking of influence, how does your culture impact your work ethic? Your your relationships? Let's talk about that. How does your culture impact that?
All right. We going there.
Let's go all the way. Since we're here, let's go all the way.
I'll start off with work ethic. So, both my parents are, extremely hardworking individuals. Going back to my upbringing, they have what I guess society would call a blue collar background, right?
Right.
And I just remember my dad working tirelessly throughout the days because he was in construction. It's a different beast when you have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, be at work at 4, and you're not getting off until 7.
Wow.
My mom worked at a hotel, and I remember growing up, while we were at school, she was at home, and then while we were at home, she was at work. So she'll work the evening shift because, there's not much job for refugees, so you have to get it how you live. And I remember her walking, 10 miles to get to work during the hot sun, at the peak of the hot sun, and then walking home at night, crazy areas of South Florida. So it's a different bite, if you will. You got to have that bite. And I feel like I take those same work ethics to me in corporate America. I'm not afraid to go in extra early, to leave extra late, just to make sure that I'm giving it my all. I consider myself a subject matter expert in the area that I work in, and it's because I put in those hours. And then once I got to that point where I had that confidence to be considered a subject matter expert, that's when I put that knowledge to work. It's always taking things to the next level. So to answer your question more directly, I think that's what my culture is as far as my work ethic. It's that grind, no matter what your capacity is, because I guess society would deem me a white collar worker, but having that blue collar background, that's what really feels to me is the best part of being who I am, because it's a dangerous combination.
Right.
It's in a good way. Now, relationships, culturally, Creole is a combination of French and African dialects, so it's a combination of languages. And I feel like that French side of the culture is where the relationship aspect comes from, because my parents were lovers. My dad was a lover and a provider. My mom was a lover and a nourisher, and myself, I consider myself a lover and a fighter. But I think that passion transcends into relationships as well. So I love hard. Going back to that fight, I'm always in a sense of the battle, right? Like I said, it's word choice. It's a play on words to kind of trigger myself to make sure I'm doing my best in my due diligence. But even in relationships, I don't waste time frivolously, going out on dates or meeting folks. I take relationships seriously because, once again, it goes back to the legacy I'm trying to leave, right? And knowing that coming from where I came from and being where I am today, it's a blessing, a full opportunity to maximize on this thing called life and all the blessings that come with it.
Okay. So how does that transcends to your work relationships with your management, with higher up, with your colleagues, those work relationships? How does your culture impact them as well?
I think it's a good impact because my work relationships are strong, industry wide and within my company. In my previous capacities, when I was working for one of the largest pharmacy chains in America, I had more of a client-facing role. In my current role on the pharma side, I'm more of an in-house capacity. But my pre-pro is where I built my industry relationships. It was a national position. I traveled all over the country, and now going into the pharma capacity, coming from the pharmacy world, it's a newfound appreciation for true pharmacy operations, and all the relationships that I build is based off my credibility and I guess ability to be that subject matter expert. So they're confident in me and what I bring to the table. So building that relationship is natural. And they also, often rely on me as like a consultant when it comes to certain things that fall under my niche, which is specialty pharmacy. So to answer your question more directly, because I know I get to a roundabout sometimes, I feel like my culture and just coming from that hard work ethic background really provided me the opportunity to do my due diligence on the front end early in my career that allowed me to easily establish relationships, on the clock and off the clock. So I'm a genuine person. It doesn't matter the parameters, the confines of the time of the day. Kin that you meet between the hours of 9 to 5 is the same kin that you're going to meet between the hours of 5 to 9. So,
yeah, I definitely believe you should always, be yourself regardless. I know it's kind of hard sometimes in that setting to be you when you're hard pressed on every side and they want you to conform to the culture or what they have built and created. But going into that, when does the switch happen? When does the switch happen for you? I know sometimes they say we have the voice that we put on when we're at work or when we're around our colleagues, but when does the switch happen for Ken? To be you or to be who they want you to be in the work setting?
So I'll share a funny story with you. When I graduated and got an opportunity to relocate to Chicago from Florida and work in a corporate capacity at the pharmacy headquarters, that's when the switch happened. Because I didn't always have this confidence in myself professionally. I didn't always have this confidence in my ability to try to edify folks in my culture, my background. It was a shock. Grew up in South Florida, went to Florida A&M University, that's Seven Hills, HBCU. So, came from a diverse set of people in South Florida. HBCUs are known for being diverse, rich black cultures, of all types. And then I moved to the suburbs of Chicago where it was zero, and I looked it up on Wikipedia, it was 0.03% black.
Oh, wow.
It was a shock.
Yeah.
It was one of the greatest learning lessons of my life, because it was at that time I had to make that decision. Do I switch to something new, or do I switch up the swag of what folks do in that capacity? Black folks being surrounded by people that don't look like them, and try to conform to the environment.
Right.
I chose to stay true to myself. I call it my Romans campaign: be transformed, not conform. And I made sure that I transformed into a new version of myself, but stayed true to who I was to the core. And then that just continued on throughout the rest of my career, up to date, and hopefully until the end.
That's real. Because I know a lot of times we get into the whole imposter syndrome, or when you answer the phone, in my environment, it goes from if one of my friends call me, hey, yo, what's up, to if one of the colleagues call me, hi, yes, you've reached Sheneisha, Sheneisha speaking, how may I help you? It's difficult, but I definitely believe you should always be who you are. And I love what you said, transcend or confirm, to switch up the swag of who you are in this setting, to do it a different way. Right. And still be real and authentic, and what we call keeping it 100, right? Keeping it 100.
Right, absolutely. And I will say, so, there's a time and place for everything, right?
Right.
So if I'm presenting different things of that nature, I will probably, pull out some thesaurus words, or
oh, wow.
the better jargon, if you will. said, I'm myself to the core, and I feel like that genuine spirit is what has been the greatest precursor and potentiator of everything that has happened since leaving the heights of Seven Hills, Florida A&M University.
That's real. That's real. So you're in Chicago now. You're working for Big Pharma, right? What has been your experience as a first-generation American immigrant in corporate America?
What has been my experience?
Yes, what has been your experience thus far? First generation.
I would say it's been amazing. It has been all sunshine and rainbows, cookies and cream. But like I said, when you have that thought process of that fight,
right?
That noble fight, and also that bite, that due diligence bite. That's my South Florida coming out.
I hear it. I hear it.
You maximize on the opportunity and have not just the faith,
right,
but the optimistic spirit of mustard seed. So I'm not hard to please. Like I said, I came from humble beginnings. I'm not used to making the money I'm making today. I'm not used to being allotted access to certain things, and just the ability to have the opportunities I have today. I'm not used to it. So I thank God for it through it all. And my experience has been remarkable. I feel like it's a breath of fresh air, because they say it's lonely at the top, right? And I'm nowhere near the top, mind you. But as I continue to try to climb this ladder of life, I just thank God for all the people that's in my life, surrounding me with great friends, family that supports me more than anybody that I can ever imagine. My family goes above and beyond in making sure I feel whole, making sure that I feel loved, making sure that I don't let the stressors of back home preclude me and my progress in life. So I'll say that the experience has been amazing. Like I said, there's been ups and downs, but during those down times, it's real minor compared to what it could be. It's very humbling when you really reflect on situations and you're looking at, you could be complaining about something that seems so big to you in the moment. But when you really pause and consider and think about where you came from, going back to my heritage, to think about if I didn't make the decision to go off to college, if I didn't make the decision to pursue that pharmacy degree, if I didn't make the decision to leave the nest of Florida and come to Chicago for a new challenge, my complaint would be way worse, probably more justified. So even in my haste to continue to grow into the person that God called me to be, life is good through it all. I praise Him, I worship Him, and I give Him honor, because clearly I feel like I'm walking down the righteous path that was predestined for me. So that's why things seem to be working easier and easier as time goes along. But I continue to fight through it all. That way, if somebody tries to throw a cold ball, the enemy comes after me, I will persevere through whatever case is thrown, because it's just in me to do so.
Speaking of in you to do so, having that fight, being in corporate America now as first generation American, what challenges do you face? I mean, we all have that upside, but then there's times too where we have the not so up, right? So what challenges do you face, and then how do you overcome or navigate those challenges being a first generation American in corporate?
Gotcha. So one of my biggest challenges at times in corporate America is corresponding through the phone. I have a very notably deep, black voice. And for folks who aren't used to receiving that type of baritone voice on the other side of the line for certain requests and, for certain actual, given directives as well, it becomes a challenge. I've been, I'll be a telemarketer at times. Folks like wrong number, hang up. I'm like, it's Ken from the other building. Oh, sorry about that. I thought, hey, what's going on?
Wow.
Yeah. So it's and that's kind of humbling experience in itself because, no matter how far you go, no matter what you look like on paper, if you're a black male or female in America, that's who you are, and then once again, that's the bucket of everything that falls under black. Myself being Haitian American, folks don't even know about your culture. So that's a challenging conversation at times. But like I said, I forced that challenging conversation so folks would be receptive to it. So when May 18th comes, Haitian Flag Day, Haitian Independence Day, folks know why I'm wearing red, white, blue. And it's not because of the American flag, it's because of the Haitian flag. So I think, like I said, but that's a minor challenge, if anything. But, at the beginning, it was kind of a slap in the face because it's like, okay, when is this going to stop? When are folks going to realize that you don't have to have that, voice, that Caucasian voice. You don't have to put on your Caucasian voice. There was a movie that I reference a lot called Sorry to Bother You, where the guy in the movie, he had to put on his, what they call the white voice in order to appease customers. And ironically enough, he was a telemarketer. But, I just feel like it's 2019. There's no need to do that anymore. A lot of ignorance being a state of unawareness as it pertains to black culture and even Haitian American culture is being debunked because of, small effort like mine when you're just talking about yourself, talking about your background. And I don't force my background on folks and I don't force my history on folks. I use it as a conversational starter and then I ask them about theirs. Because, there's a lot of times we jump to judgment that, the white person in front of me is just white. They could be from France, too. That gives us a commonality right there. They could be from Russia. They could have some Asian descent, but, watered down throughout the years or through the generations, and you'll never know until you have that conversation with them. So the same energy I give in trying to edify folks and educate folks, I try to learn more as well about different individuals. I don't put them in that same bucket that it seems like society likes to put, all people of black descent.
That's real. Education and enlightening is very much needed. I'm going to navigate to asking this last question to you, and hopefully you can shed some light on this and encourage and empower the other first generation Americans. But what advice do you have to give them for the first generation Americans listening, young, the first in their families to do it, as you said, with the famous,
Famous first.
The famous first. What advice do you give to the famous first, the first generation Americans or immigrants who are listening right now?
The advice I would give, first advice I would give is connect, right? Mm-hmm. We're in 2019. There is no reason why you should feel like the first and the only in any way, shape, or form. LinkedIn, social media. I mean, I can't really plug, Instagram or Facebook as much as I would say LinkedIn is the best, professional perspective anyways. I would say connect yourself. If you're working in pharma and you feel, or you are the only black person within your division, your company, wherever the case may be, or one of few, connect with others like you within your company, outside of your company, with different companies. Because it's important. It takes a village, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like as we grow through life, sometimes we lose that village mindset and think that, we made it, or we can take it from here. But it's a never-ending thing. There's always going to be somebody that is in need of help, and there's always going to be somebody that's willing to help. So whichever, arm you fall up under, be that person. So if you need help, search for it. If you're willing to help those who need it from you, that would be my biggest advice. Words of encouragement: keep up the good grind. Keep from the noble fight. Because being the first, it's not there. There shouldn't be a moment of contentment, because the moment you feel content is the moment you stop growing. And I'm a firm believer that, like God put the seeds on this earth, He put us on this earth to grow. So we have to continue to fight, continue to grow, and reach new heights. And then if that moment ever comes where we stop growing up, that's when we start growing out and supplying the world with new seeds. And that's where that mentoring spirit comes. So for every person that you edify, help, and just guide along the way, they'll pay it forward, and that'll be a cascade in the right direction. So those are my words of encouragement and advice.
Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you so much. Listen up, guys. This was Dr. Ken Joe and myself, Sheneisha White, giving you the little advice that we have here for first generation Americans in corporate. I hope that you found this to be enlightening and that you can take this and add into yourself. But Ken, thank you so much for your time. I know you're super duper busy and you're so Florida. So thank you so much for speaking to us today and just giving us some enlightenment on being the first generation American corporate. Thank you.
No pressure. And thank you guys for the opportunity to, because hopefully it encourages somebody else or opens somebody else's eyes. And that positive energy just comes into the.
And can we go ahead here? We're going to put your LinkedIn information down below, but how can people reach out to you if they would like to know more about manhood on the go, being a first generation American in corporate? Shout out some of your information here in your businesses so people can reach out to you.
Well, I grew up in a generation that used to listen to Mike Jones, and he did something bold. He just threw his number out there. Because, some people may call and help and some people may call and actually use it. So feel free. The best way to reach me is area code 561-503-3500. I may not pick up the first or second time. I may not pick up at all. I'm lying. But, I definitely want to be a person. Like I said, I'm all willing to help within the confines of my schedule. I do get busy. So if you don't hear back from me right away, just know I'll return your call or I'll return your text. Or just try again. Don't stop until you get it.
How about your LinkedIn and Insta?
My LinkedIn, you can search Kennetth Joseph, RD, and that's Kenneth with 2 T's. So, funny story behind that, there is 2 T's in my first name. It's not a typo. And what was the other?
And your Instagram.
My Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
Not really on it, but it's still out there. So Ken Joey, with the 3 for the E's. So K3NJO3Y. That's Ken Joey with the 3 for the E's.
All right, Ken Joey with the 3 for E's. Thank you very much. It's signing out.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.